How's it going, everybody? Today's video is going to be about one thing that I would definitely avoid if you're recently diagnosed with ME/CFS, or if you've had ME/CFS for some time. So traditionally, if you have a cold or a flu or some type of virus that you're dealing with, you rest a little bit, but generally you're still going to work, taking care of your kids, driving back and forth, doing all the errands that you do, cleaning dishes, whatever. Life, still has to, things still have to get done. And as part of our culture, we tend to want to push through whatever we're going through, right? Whether it's anxiety, depression, colds, or flus, like I just mentioned. And our society kind of frowns upon anyone who does not push through whatever they're going through. There's not a whole lot of empathy for someone who's saying, hey, I got a really bad cold and a migraine. I'm going to sit this one out. Well, I went to work when I was, sick. Why can't you? Is a common type of approach to someone who's dealing with a virus or something that people don't view as something serious, right? So it's ingrained in us to push through. Now, what I would avoid with ME and CFS at all costs, especially when you first get sick or first diagnose or first start suspecting you have ME, is pushing through. So let me go into why. Overdoing it and pushing yourself physically, mentally, and emotionally, mainly physically, can cause a crash and post-exertional malaise. As more and more studies come out, pushing yourself too much and causing crashes and flares and post-exertional malaise can worsen your illness permanently, not just short term. So if you learn to pace yourself, learn to avoid post-exertional malaise at all costs, excuse me, if you learn to avoid them at all costs, sometimes you can't avoid them, but if you try to avoid them at all costs, you're going to be better off long term. I'm not a doctor. You should talk to a doctor about this that knows about ME and CFS. That's a challenge in and of itself, but you can only control what you can control. So what I do is I have wearables, and I'm going to make a video about this. I've made one in the past, but I'm doing this a little bit more updated as technology's changed a lot from when I first made the video. But what you want to avoid is going into a crash, going into a flare-up, going into post-exertional malaise. Those are the things that are going to cause your illness to deteriorate a lot faster, and you're going to deal with a lot more symptoms all at once. So wearables. You can get a Fitbit, heart monitor, Apple Watch. I'm sure there's cheaper options out there. Don't break the bank for this. But start to understand where your baseline is. Notate, like when you find a pattern of flare-ups based on overexerting yourself, based on your heart rate being at 120 too long, you notice, holy cow, things go downhill very quickly after that. Try to avoid that for some time. Now, I know, some doctors are going to say, work out, you're deconditioned, and you need to talk to your doctor about this, but most people with ME and CFS do horribly with exercise. Most studies show that graded exercise therapy is actually dangerous for ME, CFS, harmful to one's health. It generally does not work. Are there some cases it does? Sure, the vast majority, it's actually quite dangerous. So the next time that you're feeling the onset of a symptom flare. For me, it's swollen glands, migraine, joint pain, muscle stiffness. We all have different brain fog. We all have different things that are kind of warning us about a pending flare or crash. You have to take your time and rest. And this is the most challenging part of ME, right? A lot of us type A personalities, you want to push through, you could do it, I'm tough, I'm a marathon runner, I did this, I did that, I'm an engineer and work 10-hour days. And that's the hard part about ME and CFS. And early on, when people don't understand, they try to push through, and there are severe consequences to that. Early on, there are more and more studies coming out that if you treat ME by avoiding crashes and flares and things like LDN and different methods and medicines that doctors will recommend to you if they're well-versed in ME, can help symptoms a lot more than if you've crashed numerous times early on in your ME journey. I pushed through. The more tired I got, the more brain fog I got, the harder I tried to get through it. I just was not going to let ME beat me. And I gave it all I had. I'm a fairly disciplined guy. Um, when I put my mind to something, I do it. And I didn't win that battle. I lost every single time. The harder I pushed, the sicker I got. And that's hard for people to understand that have never had ME, or if you're new to ME. A lot of times you can, sweat it out if you have a cold. You can just push through the day, and a lot of moms that I know, they're running back and forth, and they have a cold or they have something. They're like, I don't have time to be sick, and they just push right through it. Can't do that with this illness. It's one of the few illnesses that have post-exertional malaise, that have flare-ups from pushing yourself a bit too much. So it is vital to avoid pushing through, especially early in the process of acquiring ME/CFS. You have to rest, give your body a chance. For some people, that's a few hours. For some people, that's a few days. For some people, it's longer. But sometimes people push through so aggressively that they don't just have a flare-up. They don't just have post-exertional malaise. They don't just have a crash. They've now lowered their activity and functionality baseline permanently. And you don't want to do that. I know a lot of people that early on were sick with ME, and they fought and fought and fought and fought when they were having these symptoms come up, and they never got back to the original baseline that they had. They deteriorated a lot. And if you talk to a lot of these people, they really wish they can go back, talk, some sense into themselves and say, this is what I know now. Don't push through. If your body's telling you to stop, listen. So a big part of the journey with ME and CFS is learning to listen to your body. A lot of us didn't do that before. We were healthy. We were just working and in the daily grind of, life, having kids, whatever it is in your particular situation. But you need to learn to pay attention to what your body's telling you. Sounds easier than it is, really. But you start to get that tenderness in the glands. That's what it is for me. That's how I know. These things start to swell up pretty big. And I feel the pressure. And I know that a flare is coming. So I try to take it easy. I'll do an Epsom salt bath. I'll hydrate more. Eat even cleaner than I already do. I have a method to my madness, so to speak. I have things that I try to do. They work. They often work. They often don't. It just depends on how bad the flare is. I think that there is a lot of things that you can do to avoid these crashes and flares that can permanently damage your health. So that is something that I would definitely avoid. I'm going to make a video about wearables and how this kind of, intermixes with what I'm saying here. But definitely avoid pushing yourself too much. Some people don't have the choice, I understand, but it is vital early on to rest as much as possible. You get that stomach ache, that little bit of brain fog, that muscle stiffness. You start getting these little subtle symptoms. Time to just step back and maybe don't go on that walk. Maybe don't take on that task. Maybe learn to say no to those who need something from you. Put your health first and avoid getting worse by overdoing it. So I hope that this is kind of a bit of obvious advice, but it's something that a lot of people that are new to ME just don't know yet. And I really want to get this video out to those people because it could really, hopefully, save you from your baseline dropping permanently, your functionality baseline dropping personally. So anyways, I don't want to make the video too long. Until next time, take care.